Hi there, Cindy Darnell here. Today I want to talk to you about the idea of healthy sex versus unhealthy sex. Now, I have a little bit of a problem. In fact, I have quite a problem with the phrase healthy sex and unhealthy sex, and I'll tell you why. When we split sex into two categories, like healthy and unhealthy, what that does is it sets up a judgment. It makes it sound like this kind of sex is okay, but that kind of sex is not. Now, instead of looking at sex through a lens of good and bad, healthy and unhealthy, instead I propose working out what your motivations for sex are. Are you having sex that you think is satisfying? So, you can start by asking yourself, why do I have sex? What purpose does sex serve in my life? And what outcome, what intention do I have for the sex that I'm having? Because many of us engage in sex and we actually have no idea why we're doing it. That's okay, except that if we find that we're having sex and we're left feeling a bit empty or icky or unsatisfied after having sex, it could be because we're not entirely sure why we're there, what we're doing, and what we're hoping to get out of it. So take a moment now to think about why you have sex. Some of the more common reasons that people have sex are for pleasure, connection, to feel close, because our friends are doing it, because we feel like we should, because we feel that our partner is expected of us. All of these reasons are perfectly fine, but it's really important to pay attention to whether we are okay with the reasons that we're having sex. Sometimes it can be that we feel a little bit of a gap between what we're thinking about sex, I want to be close, and what we're feeling, I don't really feel close at all. So in that situation, my suggestion is to lean into the edges and ask yourself, well, what am I getting from it? Remembering that there are hundreds of reasons that people have sex, and some of them are about pleasure and connection, some of them are about all kinds of other things. But as long as we know what we're doing and why we're doing it, we're going to be able to take back some of our control about sex rather than feeling that we have to be doing it. One of the big things that particularly affects a lot of women is this idea of empowerment, that I'm going to have sex so I can feel empowered. And that's okay. And so, for some women, sex is really empowering, but for others it's not. And the thing about having sex on our terms, with our intentions in mind, is that every time you have sex, you might not feel empowered. Every time you take your pants off, you might not feel empowered. And that's okay. But remember that if empowerment is not your motivation, and if your motivation is something else, can you give yourself permission to accept what you find there? So, if sex is something that you've been struggling with, trying to work out whether you're getting satisfaction from it or not, I invite you to start thinking about sex through a lens of pleasure, through a lens of motivation, through a lens of inspiration, rather than is this healthy or is it not healthy? Because when we put the judgment, when we put the compass of satisfaction, as it were, outside of ourselves, we're always going to feel like something is not quite right. When we can learn to trust ourselves, when we can learn to trust our bodies, when we can learn to trust our own compass, that's when we get the most joy. See you next time.